In Pittsburgh. In fact, we'll get to all 8 teams over the next hour, and we're so glad to be with you today, coming at you from New York City, actually. And look who's with us in-house. Marcus Spears, Tim Hasselbeck as well, Jeff Darlington, Jeremy Fowler joining us throughout. Let's start in Pittsburgh, you guys, where those 2 new quarterbacks were in attendance for their first voluntary practices today for the team. And after working out, both took to the podium to address the media. You see Justin Fields taking some reps there as well, and Russell Wilson, of course, getting it going. Will be so interesting to see who wins this quarterback battle. ESPN Steelers reporter Brooke Pryor joins us now. And Brooke, what did Wilson and Fields have to say after their first full day of OTAs together in Pittsburgh?
Well, Laura, Mike Tomlin famously wants volunteers, not hostages. And both of those guys were happy and excited to volunteer to be at the first day of voluntary workouts, OTAs, earlier today. Justin Fields said that before the trade, he had actually told his agent that he wanted to be in Pittsburgh. And now Russell Wilson, in talking with him, said that he's also excited to be in Pittsburgh. And he said he has nothing to prove.
I wouldn't say I'm scalded. I would say that if anything, I've just learned a lot, and I think that internally you get better, you get tougher, you use your experiences, you use the challenges that you've gone through to be the best version of you. And so I don't blink, and I'm looking forward to the challenge and the opportunity.
I'm definitely, competing. I think, Russ knows that. We're competing against each other every day. Him being out there for me, that, helps me getting better, us pushing each other. So. I definitely don't have the mindset of, me just, sitting all year. So, I'm coming in every day, giving it all I got, and, pushing him to be his best, and he's, pushing me to be my best each and every day. So that I get to, learn stuff from him, the things that he's accomplished, up to this point in his career has been great. So, just me learning just the little details, how he's so meticulous and detailed within every rep, every individual drill. It just kind of makes me think, like, that's what I should be doing each and every time.
Not only are the quarterbacks working to get on the same page with each other, they're also trying to build chemistry with their wide receivers, including George Pickens. I asked him if he felt like he was getting on the same page as these quarterbacks, and he said they're all on a very wordy page because they're all talking and communicating, trying to figure out the routes and all the intricacies of Arthur Smith's new offense. And Justin Fields is also getting used to the city of Pittsburgh. He said he's been going on a lot of walks here, familiarizing himself with the city. And he said it's been a very friendly welcome to Pittsburgh. He said on his Ubers to the airport, 30 minutes there, he said he's had nothing but 30-minute conversations with those drivers. Has just been really excited about the way that the city is embracing him.
Yeah, Brooke, good Uber drivers there in Pittsburgh. One of my favorite cities, by the way, and great fans, of course, as you well know. Thanks for joining us here. Hey, whatever Russell Wilson and Justin Fields contribute to the Steelers in 2024, likely going to be better than Pittsburgh had in 2023. The Steelers posted a 42 total QBR in 2023. That's third worst team QBR by 10-win teams since 2006 when the metric began. 2 of the 3 worst seasons were by AFC North teams last year. Marcus, it'll be fascinating to see how all this shakes out. We're just in the beginning of it right now, but you can kind of visualize how this quarterback battle could go. How do you see things shaking out in Pittsburgh between Justin Fields and Russell Wilson?
Yeah, the first thing I love is that they both acknowledge, Justin Fields acknowledged that we are in a quarterback competition, along with him acknowledging that he's learning from Russell Wilson. So to me, that starts off healthy. And you feel comfortable because Mike Tomlin is the head coach as well. And we know how well run this organization is. We know the stability that they love to have in Pittsburgh, which is why we see 2 new quarterbacks, because they're trying to find that stability. I think Arthur Smith is smart enough to know that both of these guys offer different things, but some of those things are elite. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a package or 2 if Justin Fields is not playing majority of the snaps, with him potentially in the red area. Some things on third down. Arthur Smith wants to run the football as well, using Justin Fields with Najee Harris and Jalen Warren in the backfield. I think that has to be so enticing for him. Not without Russell Wilson being the starter, the veteran, the guy that they're going to hand the reins to, and if he plays well, to have some success. But I wouldn't look at this as a situation where it's negative impact, us sitting on our hands and feet and hands waiting for Justin Fields to start. I think they both can coexist And if Russell is just falling off a cliff, then you see what Justin has.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the coexisting. I'm really not, and here's why. Russell Wilson has no financial anchor with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so if it's not going well for him, not only they not have to play him, but they could cut him. And then from the standpoint of Justin Fields, fifth-year option not picked up. Like, he's playing for the next contract. So you have a situation in Pittsburgh where both guys are basically playing for the next contract. And so if you're not playing for your next contract. And that's where I think this whole thing gets really tricky. Look, Mike Tomlin is maybe as equipped as any coach to handle that dynamic of a young, super talented guy that is trying to prove he still is a starter in the league, and then an older, super accomplished, Super Bowl winning quarterback. Like, to blend that together. Look, Mike Tomlin is maybe one of the few guys that could handle that. All that to say, like, it's going to take a massive amount of maturity and unselfishness by both guys if they are going to coexist, because what they want is the next contract. And they're only getting it if they're the guy that's playing.
Yeah, Tim, I think your point about Tomlin is well taken, though. He is a coach who can handle any type of locker room situation. Really, really fast. Swag, why are you raspy? You got a little rasp going on today.
Well, yeah, I've been at basketball tournaments getting after Marcus Spears Jr., so cheering and getting after him. So my voice is a little raspy.
Hey, just wait till he's in the NBA and see how raspy he is at that point. Let's go to Aaron Rodgers. He practiced today at Jets OTAs. Head coach Robert Saleh said that he had no limitations. Look at him out there. He was able to do, quote, everything. Rodgers, who was entering his 20th NFL season, tore his left Achilles tendon just 4 snaps into the season opener last year against the Bills. He spoke with the media after practice.
I feel really good. It's just about the mental part. I think these practices have been nice the last couple of days. I just feel what it's like to be out there, to be moving around and not be thinking about it, and see how I respond the next day. So it's just this last part. The strength is good, the movement's good, just the confidence to do everything. If I don't do what I know I'm capable of doing, we're all probably going to be out of here. So I like that kind of pressure, though. I know there's, it's a tough market to play in. It's not for everybody. I relish that opportunity.
Yeah, the sly smile there. Rich Cimini recapping Aaron Rodgers' day. Here's a little play-by-play. A good showing for Aaron Rodgers. He's rekindling that chemistry with Garrett Wilson. Hitting him on 2 short routes, he zipped a 6-yard touchdown pass to Wilson on a seeing eye pass through traffic. Somehow squeezed it into tight coverage by C.J. Mosley. Rodgers' best throw was a deep seam to Xavier Gibson, who beat Chuck Clark overall. Rodgers 8 for 10 in 11 versus 11. Keep in mind, this is non-contact, basically a passing camp. The QB1 was sharp for a guy who hasn't played a game in a long time. I'm going to say hashtag Jets, because Jets fans are out there like, ooh, don't get us too excited, okay? But it is kind of exciting for them to see what Rodgers is doing. Marcus, your reaction to the fact that Aaron could, quote, do everything today?
I love the fact that he can participate, and I love that he's participating. And obviously, listen, I don't get too enamored with the number of going 11 versus 11. If it was anybody that was born to throw a damn football elite, it was Aaron Rodgers. Like, he'll be able to throw it when he's 65 and go 8 for 10 in 11 versus 11. Trust me, he'll be able to do that. But the good thing is building this rapport, as he talked about with Garrett Wilson, this newly minted offensive line that they have, being back in the facility around the guys, but more importantly, reassuring himself that the Achilles is doing well, being able to bounce around, some sudden pocket movement, things that you can actually work on to see if you can push off. He went through a rigorous rehab. He's back on the field with the New York Jets, and you can re-rack everything we said about the expectations for this team that we had last year, outside of having some real questions about the offensive line. Now, the health is going to be the thing that we illuminate with this football team. If they stay healthy, will be a prelude to probably every analysis that before the season starts. But I'll go with them being healthy and them being formidable guys to make it to the AFC Championship and potentially get to a Super Bowl if Aaron Rodgers is the Aaron Rodgers that we all expect him to be.
Yeah, I agree with you, Marcus. Look, rather than his stats during a non-padded practice, just seeing the video of him taking off and running or jumping around like that probably is all you need to see. And then you see that and you're exactly right. Re-rack what you said last year, because they're actually better around him this year than they were a year ago. And Aaron Rodgers, in the 3 seasons prior to him getting hurt last year, threw 126 touchdowns. Like, just simple math. Like, if you're getting 40 touchdown passes, or heck, 30 out of the quarterback position at the Jets, that is a massive improvement from what you've been used to getting. Okay, I think they're a contender with Aaron healthy. I do. I think they're that good on defense. Yeah. I think he's that good. He's that big of a difference maker. And so, yeah, the encouraging part was not necessarily Rich Cimini's report, but the fact that he looks like he's totally fine.
I want a tweet like that from you, Tim, going out to somebody's 11 on 11, just, every single play documented. I also got to point out, we are in New York today, as we said. This studio, there's some Jets fans in here. I wish you could see their smiles after how you guys are talking, okay?
That's good. That's good. They should. They need something to be happy about. They need something to be happy about.
Hey, we're just getting started on NFL Live. We're happy about that. Contract status with the Dolphins.
Yeah, Tua Tagovailoa is at OTAs for the most part. Today, he has been excused because he's actually attending his former coach Nick Saban's charity event, but he is expected back. The team's still optimistic about the contract talks. That being said, there is nothing imminent at this point. This feels like something that could get done maybe midsummer. That generally is when quarterback extensions get done. They do also have the framework of Jared Goff's recent deal, which was, by the way, above $50 million a year. Maybe that helps them get there. Justin Jefferson, meanwhile, speaking of trying to get a new contract, Jefferson also looking for what will be a market resetting contract at the wide receiver spot. The Vikings have been adamant that they want to get this done. They also have no intentions of trading him. And really, I don't think that they have any intentions of him playing on that final year of his deal worth $19.7 million. That being said, this will be upwards of $30 million a year when it gets done. T. Higgins is a little bit of a different situation. He does not intend to sign his franchise tag. That, according to our Adam Schefter, which means that he won't be able to participate in OTAs. Now, the question here, of course, is with Higgins is, do the Bengals ultimately decide to trade him? Because they also have another contract in Jamar Chase's deal that is going to be likely much bigger that they have to get done first. That is the priority, I'm told, with the Bengals. It seems unlikely at this point they'll be able to keep both guys long term, but of course they are not ruling that out. They are still working hard to make that happen, Laura.
Yeah, shades of the 49ers a little bit, trying to figure out how you keep all of these offensive weapons to make your offense top tier. Let's go to Detroit next, with the Lions, one of 8 teams starting their OTAs today. And of course, the recent headline in the last few weeks came when the team locked up Jared Goff with a 4-year contract worth $212 million. $170 million of that fully guaranteed. Jeff, right back to you. Goff not the only Lion to cash in Detroit. Take us through the key players the Lions re-signed this offseason.
Well, it's amazing that they were able to re-sign so many of their offensive guys too. And by the way, also keeping Ben Johnson around as well. But let's talk about some of these guys. We've got Penei Sewell at offensive tackle. He signed a 4-year extension worth $112 million. We've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who signed a 4-year deal worth $120.01 million, 35 guaranteed, which, by the way, made him the highest paid receiver of all time until, of course, one of these other 3 receivers likely get their deals done. But you see it right here. That is a lot of guaranteed money to be throwing around on that offense. It is very clear, especially with their offensive coordinator, that they are trying to run this thing back and maybe take it a little bit further.
Yeah, and that's the question, because there were so many positives about this Lions team, Marcus. We loved them even in the early parts of the season, especially in the latter. They bet on their players they already had on their roster, re-signing them instead of being more active in free agency. You think that's the right move?
I think it was the right move. And the best way to judge how well you draft is how many of your guys end up signing in second deals and staying at home. Sometimes it's a financial and business thing that they have to leave. But the ability to pay all 3 of these guys, who I think are the anchors and kind of identify as the culture that Brad Holmes has tried to build over this time, where we've seen the Detroit Lions make this ascension along with some other players. But when you think about Penei Sewell, the dominant right tackle that he is, his ability to do more in this offense than just be a blocker. You can move him. We saw him catch a pass this year. He offers a lot of things, but more importantly, the identity of this football team. They still, even though they paid their quarterback $100+ million, they still want to be a physical football team up front. Amon-Ra St. Brown work in the middle of the field, going from slot, being able to move positions. And then Jared Goff being rewarded for what he did this year, as opposed to his name or his positional value as a quarterback. He earned the money because he took this team not only to an NFC Championship, but to heights that this organization hadn't seen in a long time. I love re-signing these guys. I love not going out in free agency thinking that you needed to do something different, with Jared Goff being kind of a byproduct of that, leaving the Los Angeles Rams and experiencing this type of success. Brad Holmes did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, I agree with you, Marcus, and I would sit right there on the Jared Goff situation. Listen, I don't know that this got enough attention. You just think about it in terms of Jared Goff.
Yeah.
He is 29 years old. A little bit of perspective, like Kirk Cousins is 37. Like Geno Smith is 33. Derek Carr, 33. Dak Prescott, 30. Like Baker Mayfield's 29 years old. Like he's the same age. And this is a guy that's taken two different organizations to an NFC Championship game. And one of them, he ends up making it to the Super Bowl. Like, and to your point, the rebuild in Detroit, like in terms of the personality, what you're talking about with Penei Sewell in terms of being physical and having that grit, well, guess what?
Yeah.
Jared Goff has that. Jared Goff came over basically as a throw-in, had to rebuild basically his image in the National Football League. Dan Campbell was fielding questions about, hey, are you going to make a move at quarterback with that first year Jared Goff as a starter? And all he really did was play about as well as you could possibly play. Now, they certainly helped him with some young, talented receivers. They've made the backfield better, and they've invested in the offensive line. But he's delivered. And look, he might be their starter for the next 8 years. Like, that's what they have locked up. I think that's a big deal.
I agree, Tim, and I think your point about the story of Jared Goff probably gets lost in the shuffle a little bit, too. Everyone just says, oh, yeah, of course he's doing well with this Detroit team.
Boogie.
He had to convince Detroit. Yeah, go ahead, Swag.
But let me remind everybody, to Tim's point, and Jeff is on here, Jared Goff made the two plays to go to the Super Bowl this year. His receivers dropped the football. He made the two throws in order to lock that game up and put this team in the Super Bowl. And think about the conversation. Even it was so great for them to make an NFC Championship, and we were excited, obviously sitting there and covering it. But this team should have been in the Super Bowl. Like that is the reality of what we watched Detroit go up to San Francisco and do. And Jared Goff delivered in those moments. So I just don't want people to forget how good he was in those moments last year. Had to make plays against Tampa in a playoff game before the NFC Championship. He was phenomenal when the chips were on the line. And that is the conversation we having with some other guys, and it's making it hard to talk about their contracts because they didn't deliver in that particular moment. Jared Goff did.
Yeah, the man's got guts. Expectations high in Detroit, by the way. They kind of agree with us at ESPN Bet. The Lions had the second shortest odds to win the NFC, trailing only the 49ers. Coming in Nashville, you see Roger Goodell in attendance there. The commissioner, the owners getting together to discuss the major topics around the league. Robert Kraft making his way in. Jeremy Fowler is there all week. What are the headlines, Jeremy, out of the meetings today?
Well, Laura, the city of Pittsburgh is pumped right now because I'm hearing the Steelers organization is cautiously optimistic that they will land an NFL draft hosting gig in either 2026 or 2027. That will be voted on here this week, most likely tomorrow morning. So the team has made their pitch. The contingent is here. The work is done, that they expect that will go through at some point in the next 24 hours. The league just updated us on international games. They're looking for some new sites. They have Madrid, Spain in 2025. So this summer they're going to look at all their spots to see what makes sense. Australia is firmly in the mix there for the future. And then there's some back burner items like Tom Brady's minority stake in the Las Vegas Raiders. That has not been voted on yet. Probably won't happen this week from what I'm hearing, early indications. Could get pushed back to the October meeting.
Jeremy, really interesting. A lot going on there at those meetings. More from you to come, so stay right there. We'll be right back with you. Let's take some time to visit with the Colts right now, another team beginning their OTAs. Anthony Richardson was a very dynamic rusher in his games before he suffered a grade 3 AC joint sprain in his right shoulder on a designed rush in Week 5 against the Titans. He had 4 touchdowns, which was tied with Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts for the most among the NFL among quarterbacks, and ranked in the top 5 in both rushes per game and yards per game. Marcus, it was undeniable how good he was when he was at his best, but should the Colts adjust their play calling slightly depending on how they use Richardson in order to prevent more injuries happening like the one that's already happened in his early part of his NFL career?
Yeah, but I don't think you adjust your play call, and I think he adjusts the way he finishes plays. Obviously, it's the NFL, and you're going to get hit. But there were some times Anthony Richardson could have avoided some hits or been a little bit more conscious about guys being around and bigger and faster playing in this league. So I think you make him dynamic by the way you call plays if you're O'Connell. But more importantly, you just make, Shane Steichen, you just make sure that he understands how to protect himself in these plays. And I think that's how you go forward. His talent and ability is there. He just has to learn that part of the game.
Yeah, Jeff, we know the Colts are going to be strategic with Richardson offseason workload, but how much work does he want to do?
Yeah, Laura, he's the one who's been pushing the hardest to make sure that he can get back. And I mean, it's pretty clear that he feels very comfortable with this recovered shoulder from last season's surgery. But I will say the team trying to be as cautious as possible during this portion of OTAs. But just to be very clear, it feels like he is trending in a really good direction, that he should be full go in time for training camp.
Full go. I think when we talk about guys that are developing at the quarterback position, like, you need time on task. And look, we all know that Anthony Richardson was drafted as a developmental prospect. And so because of his lack of experience at Florida and because of the fact that it was a shortened rookie season, since he left high school, here are his numbers in competitions. He's got 265 completions since high school. We were just talking about Jared Goff. Like, for a little context, Jared Goff had 407 completions last season. So I just think that, when we talk about these young quarterbacks, especially guys that are coming off of injuries, we're talking about their development. Like, they got to go. Like, they got to get reps. They got to be put out there, because the best way to get better at doing something is by actually doing it, by actually playing, by actually participating in all this stuff. Look, quarterback is the hardest position in sports, and Anthony Richardson is going to have a lot on his plate. Like, if he's healthy, I don't think you can say, hey, look, we're going to take it easy on you. We're going to get you ready to go, because that's what needs to happen for his development.
Yeah, a fine line, too, between saying, hey, stop doing all that stuff that makes you really great just so you can protect yourself, but also protect yourself. We'll see how they handle it. To Cleveland next, where Deshaun Watson is working his way back from a fractured shoulder, an injury he suffered back in November. Now, of course, the Browns went on to make the playoffs, going 5-3 down the stretch without Watson on the field. In Watson's 4 seasons with the Texans from 2017 to 2020, only Patrick Mahomes, Drew Brees, and Lamar Jackson posted a better QBR. But he's been much worse since he was traded to the Browns and signed that 5-year, $230 million extension in March of 2022. He's made just 12 starts and posted a QBR 26 points lower than it was in Houston. Jeremy Fowler back with us now. And what are the Browns' plans, Jeremy, for Deshaun Watson and OTAs as he's coming off that shoulder surgery?
Well, Laura, the people I'm talking to believe that Deshaun Watson is throwing with a lot of velocity behind the scenes. One person took as far as to say that he looks like the old Deshaun. And so this is a quarterback that's prepared to throw at some point during OTAs, but the Browns have a specific rehab plan for him. It looks like they'll be a little conservative. He did not do any throwing today, according to reports out of Cleveland. And Laura, this is a quarterback who's trying to regain the confidence that made him a top 5 quarterback back in Houston. He hasn't had the time on task because of injuries, suspensions, and sitting out. And so he's in the process right now trying to get that back.
Yeah, Tim, what are your expectations for Deshaun this season?
Yeah, I think that we're going to get close to seeing the old Deshaun. I mean, I do. Now, just like I was talking about time on task with Anthony Richardson, look, there's been time away from the game, and the rust was evident. Like, Talked about Russell Wilson earlier in the show. Like, this is the exact opposite situation. Cleveland's married to this guy because of the contract. Like that, the financial anchor has him as the starting quarterback and not Joe Flacco, to be, candid about it. And so I think that, look, as he is in the system for another year, supported with the defense that they have and with the supporting cast that they have, and then also just time removed from the off-field stuff that, was, I'm sure, weighing on him. I'm sure a distraction with how he prepared and played, and I'm sure affected, the way he related to his teammates. And so, further away from that probably ends up, getting us back to a place where we're going to see Deshaun Watson more like the player we saw in Houston.
I don't know if he's ever going to return to the player in Houston. That player in Houston was a guy we had on the same pedestal with Patrick Mahomes. I'm not sure if he ever gets back to that point with his production and the things he was doing. This is a show me year for Deshaun Watson. And look, unfortunately, his availability has been rocked by some injuries, significant injuries, by the way, that you can't perform with. But you said it, Tim, 5-year, $230 million, that's a financial anchor. We going to be the hell with that anchor if he don't perform well or if he's unavailable. Listen, this is the National Football League, and I get it. We've had a lot of nuance and a lot of discussion about Deshaun Watson getting back to the point where he's playing at a high level. He has to play at a high level this year. This is the year of demarcation for Deshaun Watson, if this was a good investment or not. And if not, unfortunately for the Cleveland Browns, it's going to look like the worst acquisition that we've seen in this league probably ever.
Yeah, Marcus, they have set him up for a lot of success. That team around him, or whoever's the quarterback, is really, really good.
It's
Coming
all
up
there.
on NFL Live, our analysts make some predictions of locks and keys with the other teams starting OTAs today. Let's go to Denver. The Broncos finished last season 8-9 and missed the playoffs, of course, after 2 disappointing seasons in Denver. Quarterback Russell Wilson is now in Pittsburgh this offseason. The Broncos signed Zach Wilson and selected Oregon quarterback Bo Nix with the 12th pick in the first round. So, Marcus, give me something that is a lock for the Broncos this season.
Bo Nix will start week 1 as their quarterback. And listen, it also lends itself to the experience that he had in college as well. He played a lot of games, but obviously with Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham, who we pretty much have a really good sample size, why wouldn't Sean Payton bring in Bo Nix at the 12th overall pick to start him and see if he can get this team going in the right direction?
All right, that's the lock. So, Tim, what will be the key for Denver if they're going to make the playoffs this season?
All right, so the key is if you're going to start Bo Nix at quarterback and play in a division with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, then you better be awesome on defense. You better be amazing on that side of the ball. And so the key would be, look, have a top 3 defense. Have a defense that dominates games, because if you're going to come out of that division, that's going to need to be part of your formula for success.
Up next, head coach Dennis Allen and the New Orleans Saints finished 1 game above 500 at 9-8, but missed the playoffs for the 3rd straight year. You see him there. Derek Carr returns for his 2nd year under center in New Orleans, looking to see some of that magic he had promised when he got signed there. Tim, what is a lock for the 2024 New Orleans Saints?
I'll stay there with Derek Carr. I think it's a lock that he plays better than he played last year. He had a pretty good year last year considering all the change that he experienced. Remember last year was, look, where the Jets interested him, who was the team that he was going to end up with, and then next thing you know, he ends up in New Orleans. I think, playing banged up at times, some of the struggles on that team. He actually kind of came through it, I thought, fairly well. I think he plays better this year, which is obviously a very good thing for the Saints.
Marcus, if the Saints are going to get back to the playoffs, what will be the most important? Don't let me say what's going to be the key.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But it lends itself to what Tim just said. I think consistency is what Derek Carr is going to have to find. And we've seen him play at a consistent level throughout his career at times. But if he can be the guy that we saw in Vegas, making these 4th quarter comebacks, these 2nd half rallies for his football team. And don't forget, he's surrounded by a lot of offensive talent. With these receivers and Alvin Kamara still in the backfield, Derek Carr consistency is going to be the key for the Saints making the playoffs. And I agree with Tim. I don't think he played terrible, but I'm sure there are some games that he would like to have back where he felt like he could play a lot better.
Remember, he didn't have Kamara for part of the season as well. Last up, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs finished with a 9-8 record and won the NFC South last year before losing in the divisional round to the Lions. Quarterback Baker Mayfield, who won the NFL's Most Improved Player of the Year, signed a 3-year, $100 million deal to stay in Tampa this offseason. Marcus, what is the lock for the Bucs?
Yeah, I wish ESPN Bet would put a 400-1 on Mike Evans having 1,000 yards, because I damn sure put every dollar in my bank account towards it. Mike Evans is going to have 1,000 yards, everybody. He's been doing it for the last quarter century, catching for 1,000 yards. Don't matter who the quarterback is, don't matter who on the schedule. Don't even give a damn if he double covered or triple covered. He's going to have 1,000 yards this year. That's the lock. Mike Evans going for 1,000 yards. I ain't saying nothing new. Just make it a big wager for somebody.
I wanted you to say, now what's the key? But okay, the Bucs made the playoffs at 9-8 last year, won the wild card round. But what is the key, Tim, if they're going to improve on that record and take another step forward?
Yeah, I know how this is supposed to flow. Okay, Marcus, then Laura, you tee me up, and here we go. Like, that's how this goes.
Very important.
Yeah, so here's the deal. Here's what I think. Like, I think the Baker Mayfield needs to continue to play like he's got something to prove. I mean, I think, like we just said, most improved player. Look, I think the reality is when he feels like his back is against the wall, when he's got that chip on his shoulder, I just think there's a different leader that comes out of him. I think there's a different focus that comes out of him. And so I think the key is, like, don't lose that. Don't lose that just because you had the 3-year, $100 million contract. Continue to play like